I should probably unmute myself. Welcome to the chat, guys. Glad to see you another night. Um, Let me make sure that I am signed in where I need to be. Give me 1 second, okay, guys? We are good to go. Okay, got it. So let me go back and just acknowledge you guys. Thank you for tuning in tonight. I was going to do a video and then I thought maybe I'll just go ahead and do a live topic. This is a topic that a lot of you have asked me to cover. So before we jump into that introduction of what we're going to be talking about, let me just acknowledge you, Farah. I'm going to mess this up. Farah El Kafaji. I probably messed that up. I'm so sorry. Welcome to the chat. Glad to have you tonight. Hello, Deb. You do not have to apologize. Glad to see you always. Welcome back. Glad that things are seeming to be working out on your end. That's a good thing. Hello, B. Welcome to the chat. Glad to see you tonight as well. I also see Mama Lena from Germany. Hello and welcome. Welcome. Let me keep going because you guys are signing in here. Live Life, hello and welcome. Glad to have you on tonight's live chat. Daryl Harris, hello and welcome. I rarely see you in the live chat, so glad to have you. Annie Welker, hello, welcome back. Glad to see you. Okay. Katsushi, yes, you made it. Hello and welcome. Glad to see you in tonight's live chat as well. Dawn One, happy to see you. Welcome. Betsy and She Prays, hello and welcome. Betsy, you're welcome. I hope it's going to be a good chat for you guys tonight. And yes, She Prays. I don't know why you guys are not being notified. It's not my end. It must be a YouTube thing. So I'm so sorry. Once I contact them and figure out what's going on, I'll make sure to let you guys know. Okay. So, Jajettes, I didn't want to miss you. Hello and welcome. Glad to see you back in tonight's live chat. We have a lot more people signing in. I want to go ahead and just jump into this topic. I'm going to try my very best to make this a 35-minute chat, 30 to 35 minutes. We'll see if we make it, So let's jump in, okay? Let's talk about what this topic is all about, and I'll acknowledge you as we go along. So this is an interesting topic. I did not want to talk about pathological liars in tonight's live chats. That's something that I've been talking about a lot in the course of my 15-year career. And pathological liars are, simply put, an enigma. They are a mystery. It's so hard to understand them. And having worked with juvenile delinquents before, as well as young men and young boys who have been in the criminal justice system, I can even safely say that even that area of study is really difficult. And that area, the criminal justice and juvenile justice area, they too struggle with pathological lying. We don't have as many answers as we'd like. And the little bit, and I mean little bit, of research that we have is minimal on this topic. A lot of professionals also aren't trained to identify and understand pathological lying. So a lot of times the deceiver gets away with things, or we end up sweeping the pathological lying under the label of narcissist, right? Or sociopath or psychopath. It's really hard to understand this topic. And for those of you who may have had lies and secrets and deception in your family, I think this topic is going to be helpful. I'm going to break down some pieces and aspects of what lying is. I'm going to also give you some common functions of the lying that may be occurring in your family. And then I want to give you 5 signs, just in case you are trying to figure this out in your family system. And I also want to give you 5 effects of being the recipient of the deception and the lies. Okay, let's start with what research says about liars. So this is interesting. Research suggests that most of us who have a family that is entrenched in lying lying behaviors, family secrets, deceptions, rule violations, which would be something like, you violated the rules of privacy in the family by telling your grandmother that your biological father is really Uncle Bill over there. Okay. So there's probably some rule violations, there's some taboos in your family, there's some conventional secrets, right? Like, don't tell grandma that dad had an affair. Don't tell grandma we're struggling financially. Research suggests that all of those kind of secrets within a family, it makes it really difficult for us to survive. So we go through what's called truth bias. Have you guys heard of that before? Truth bias. And here's what that means. That means that we look at the situation and we look at our family, we look at the person, and the last thing that we want to believe, and sometimes this is unintentional, the last thing that we want to believe is that we are the receiver of deception and lies. That's why it's called a truth bias. We approach situations, most human beings do, believing that we are being told the truth. We very rarely approach situations, according to research, where we believe somebody is possibly telling us a lie. We automatically assume it is the truth, right? So we don't suspect that the other individual is lying to us or that our family is lying to us, right? And we also don't believe them until they're unbelievable. So, in other words, they have to give us a reason to not believe them. And so that's why it's called a truth bias. Our glasses, our lens, when we approach any situation, is to believe it for what it is at face value. And that's a sad reality, right? In families where lying is the issue, there's three common forms of lying you may have, found in your family. I found it in my extended family over, the last maybe 5 or 6 years. In your family, you are bound to struggle with one of these three. One is shared lies. Shared lies within the family is when somebody knows something and somebody else knows something. So usually two or three people or a group or a clique within a family, they share a secret. An example of this would be, I had a client about 5 or 6 years ago. She was struggling with her husband's mental illness. He had schizophrenia. He was struggling with the delusion of jealousy, and he believed that his wife was always having an affair. She would go to the grocery store, she was having an affair. She would go down in the basement to work out, she was having an affair. She would go out to get the mail, she's having an affair with the neighbor. He was very, very ill at the time, and his delusional behavior, really tore apart the family. Well, the mom or the wife, she went to her daughter and said, look, I don't need you to tell this secret to grandma. If you tell grandma that we are having a hard time with your dad right now, she's going to force me to get a divorce. So that's a shared lie. Sometimes a shared lie could also be race and ethnicity. There may be a small group of people within your family who knows that you are biracial, that you are multi-ethnic, that you are mixed, but they're going to act like it doesn't exist. It's a shared lie, right? The other piece of this could be a medical diagnosis. Sometimes within a family, somebody has cancer, somebody has multiple sclerosis or bipolar disorder or an autism spectrum disorder. Instead of being honest about it, mom and dad may hide it and act like it doesn't even exist, right? Because they don't want to be shamed. So that's one form of lies within a toxic family. The other form is called an internal lie. And that's when two people hold that lie, and it's only two people. So an example of that could be, maybe your narcissistic mom and your psychopathic dad are unfaithful to each other all the time. They've been married for 20 years, but he finds a woman to be with and she finds a man to be with. So they are both bringing infidelity and lies into the marriage. So here's why it's called an internal lie. It's a lie between the two of them. The kids have no idea that mom and dad are unfaithful in the marriage. Grandma has no idea that they have been with other people outside the marriage. Friends and neighbors think they are the best married couple ever. They're happily married, right? But just those two people, husband and wife, know that they have stepped outside of that relationship and that they're both engaging in infidelity. So that's an internal lie. It can completely destroy your family, because once somebody finds out that two people held a lie for so long, that breaks down trust, it breaks down connection, it breaks down communication, and it also breaks down someone's ability to trust. Sorry, guys. Looks like my camera froze up a little bit. I don't know what's going on. Wonder if when I hit my desk, it does that. I don't know. I'm sorry about that. And let me give you the last kind of lie that you most likely have seen within your family. And that's an individual lie. That's an individual lie. And that's dad's having an affair, but he won't tell anybody. Grandma, had 5 or 6 children and never told us. I thought grandma only had 2 kids, but she has about 5 or 6. Okay. Another lie could possibly be something, an individual lie could possibly be, I'm pregnant, but I'm not going to tell anybody that I'm pregnant until I start showing. That's an individual lie. That's not necessarily one of those lies that can harm people, but it's something that you're kind of omitting, right? You're kind of taking out of the equation. The fact that maybe you're pregnant, you're not going to say anything until you're about 9 months in, 8 months in. Now, let me also highlight the differences before I go to the chat box between a lie and deception or a secret. A lie is the act of omission. The act of omission. You refuse to give me additional details that would help me navigate this situation. I see this a lot in my office. When I'm doing family therapy, someone may say something, but they're saying it in a way where, you feel like there's this whole ocean over here of data that you need to make sense out of the situation. And the person's only giving you crumbs and bits and pieces at a time. So that's a lie. It's the act of omission. Secrets, which is what we're going to talk about in this live chat as well tonight, is the act of deception. So these are two different things. A lie is the act of omission, and secrets are the act of deception. And sometimes we can partake in that and not even know it. I'm going to explain that when we come back to the content. Let me go to the chat box and see what you guys are saying here. Judgettes, hello and welcome. Glad to see you in tonight's live chat. Thank you, Don One. That's so nice of you. Yeah. Elizabeth, hello and welcome to the chat. Glad to have you tonight. Ellie Wynn, thank you so much and you're welcome. Glad to see you. I didn't see you last night. Andrian Paul, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Welcome back. Love to see you. And thank you for the emojis. That's so cool. Yes, it is a mental health topic. I think we're going to talk a little bit about deception and lies and secrets as we go along. Go along this month. I think a lot of you have asked me to talk about this, but in different ways. So Jessica J, hello and welcome to the chat. Says, hello, Tam fam. I made it tonight. Was under the weather yesterday. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's so hard, right, to navigate feeling sick. I totally get you. I hope you're feeling better tonight. Yeah, you're welcome, Elizabeth. Yeah. Kayla Donahue, hello and welcome. Glad to see you. Says, excited to hear what you have for us tonight. Yeah, that's great. Great. I'm so glad to hear that. Free live. Uh-oh. There we go. Free live. Hello and welcome from the Netherlands. Glad to have you back tonight. Yeah. Annie Welker, I don't know if I said hello to you already. I feel like I did, but I'm going to say it again. Welcome. Glad to have you back. Since I was looking forward to this topic, secrets are a huge part of my family. Absolutely. 100%. A lot of families, so maybe I should put this out here before I continue, that a lot of families have secrets and lies within them. It's not like, secrets and lies are a part of a toxic system all the time. Sometimes a family perpetuates a lie unknowingly. So let's say, for example, you're dealing with intergenerational trauma and there's a lie. There's a lie of sexual abuse, domestic violence, and we're going to say some PTSD for about 3 generations. Maybe grandma had PTSD because she had a relationship where there was domestic violence. She never got treatment. She dealt with it on her own. Well, she bears a child. She never tells that child, Mom had post-traumatic stress disorder because your dad would harm me all the time. So that child doesn't even know that Mom had PTSD. So what happens? That child then continues on to the next generation when when he or she has a child of their own. So it kind of goes in generations like that. Grandma started it. The daughter had no idea that there was a secret. Then she bears a child. That child doesn't know there's a secret until one day it all kind of reveals itself. I once had a family, there was a secret for about 5 or 6 generations, and great grandma held the secret for so long. And it wasn't until she passed away, sadly, that everything unraveled. And let me tell you, that whole family needed therapy. I mean, this was a big family. This was a family of 25 people, 12 grandkids, 2 nieces, 6, cousins. I mean, it was a large family, and they all needed some therapy because that family lie was almost like I don't know, a meteorite that hit their family. It just kind of dispersed everyone. They were very, very shocked in what the secret was. So, Annie Walker, you're not alone. There's a lot of families that are hiding secrets, or they lie, or they're being deceptive in some way. Okay, Deed LaShawn, hello and welcome. Glad to have you in tonight's live chat. It's been cold lately. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to the chat. I think I'm going to wear a crown next time. Thank you for that. It's been cold lately. That's so cute. I appreciate that. Thank you. Dawn One says, I'm watching this from my LA Fitness hot tub. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I love it. Jim in Vegan. I always mess that up. Hello and welcome. Glad to see you in tonight's live chat. Okay. I am going to say hello to these 2 people that just signed on, and then we're going to jump back in. R.A. Andrews, hello and welcome, says, from the research I have done and my personal experience, the person who lies from a narcissistic defense actually believes the stuff they make up. So let me comment on that. A lot of people, and I may have said this at the very beginning of this conversation, a lot of people kind of sweep the term liar and deceiver under the umbrella title of a narcissist. That's kind of what we do. Now, does a narcissist always believe their lies? Not necessarily. I mean, if you're talking about a covert narcissist, they're kind of under the surface and they're hiding how they really feel, what they really think. Their true identity is kind of hidden. It's a possibility that they believe their own lies, but that's not always the truth. To say that is kind of saying narcissists have blinders on, right? And those blinders doesn't allow them to see that they're actually lying and they believe themselves. Some do, most don't. For the most part, narcissists are very aware of what they do. Now, I can say psychopaths or sociopaths, individuals who do not have empathy, individuals who operate from a place of entitlement, individuals who operate from a sneaky demeanor, from that position of a sneaky demeanor, most likely believes their lies, because it's almost like mind blindness. They can't see where they're wrong, because again, they're a psychopath or a sociopath. They're entitled. Everything from their lens looks differently than ours. So more so, not so much a narcissist, more so a psychopath and a sociopath. Thank you for that, Ari Andrews. That was a good statement. Kyra knows 144. Hello and welcome. Glad to see you in tonight's live chat. Glad to see you back. Jim and Vegan, and then we're going to go back to the content, says, I now realized in my adult life my mother as not only a narc, but she was and still is a pathological liar. I actually saw her steal money from my father. Yeah, absolutely. That's typical. So a pathological liar is different from a compulsive liar. And I'll add this to the conversation. A pathological liar is an individual who lies to lie. They lie because it's natural. They lie because it is kind of a part of their MO. I'll put it that way. The lies are a part of who they are. They've kind of built lies into their world, meaning they have this mindset and this personality pathology that says it's okay to lie. There's no moral reason why you shouldn't lie. They violate rules. They have a very low threshold for self-respect and values and other people's values, right? So pathological liars lie all the time, no matter what. Compulsive liars are a little bit different. Compulsive liars, one of my clients asked me, she's like, Tamara, what's the difference here? So compulsive liars are liars who lie out of habit. They're impulsive and something comes out of their mouth that's twisted, right? It doesn't always come out in truth, or they say something that's truthful and then down the line part of that is not truthful. So keep that in mind. Compulsive liars are impulsive. It just comes out. Sometimes it comes out and they want to pull it back in, but it's too late. Pathological liars lie to lie, period. There's no benefit, there's no reasoning, there's no motivation, there's no intent. A pathological liar just lies, and sometimes they do it smooth like water. You'll never know it's a lie because it comes out in a way that feels honest. Another thing you want to keep in mind about a pathological liar is, they've kind of practiced the art of lying. There's an art to lying. And psychopaths and sociopaths know that art very well. And so sometimes these pathological liars will give you eye contact. They will sit in a way that makes them look honest and open. They won't be closed off. They nod with you, which are called attending behaviors. When somebody nods or somebody says, I see, that's called an attending behavior. They use those. So pathological liars are really sneaky. Compulsive liars, they have absolutely no skill. They lie. Sometimes they want to pull that lie back in, or sometimes they fumble, or they kind of catch themselves in their own lies. So that's the difference between the two. Thank you, Jimin Vijin. I'm glad you mentioned that because that kind of struck a chord for me. Okay, let's get back to this. Okay, guys, you guys may be wondering, what are the functions of lies within my family? I have a very complex family. There's lies for generations. What is the function of these lies? The first thing that research says is a clear function of the lie is either the experience of bonding, okay? And here's what happens in a dysfunctional family. I'm going to go ahead and bond as grandma. I'm going to bond with my grandchild. I'm going to pull her into my space. We're going to get together all the time. We're going to talk about the family. We're going to gossip a little bit. And then I'm going to tell her something that I want her to keep a secret. And so sometimes this can be regarded as a family alliance. A family alliance. You have two people who understand something. And it's kind of like they join together and they are together against the rest of the family. That's an alliance. And that is a very dysfunctional way to be in a family, because it puts other people out and it pulls in one person. So two people know something, or two people have joined forces together. And that's as far as that's going to go. Nobody else in the family has access to it, And sometimes that could be a clique within the family, right? That could be my 5 or 6 cousins over there. They're like this. There's an alliance between them. They know things I'll never know. And when I'm in their presence, I feel like I'm way over here and all 6 of my cousins are over here. That's an example of that. So bonding, research suggests, is one reason why some families engage in lying. They pull in somebody else that they like a grandchild. They tell something to that grandchild and say, shh, don't say anything about it. And that is kind of like a family alliance. The other thing research highlights is there are lies because a family feels very strongly about privacy and protection of judgment. So let's say, for example, your dad is a psychopath. He grew up setting fires. He was a juvenile delinquent. He, engaged in committing a sexual assault. He's been in and out of jail. He has a drug abuse history. Do you think that a mother and her child wants to be subjected to the judgment that's going to fall on the family if somebody else knows that? Guys, so that's where a family says, and this is what research highlights, this is where some of those lies kind of start. It's, I have to protect the family from judgment. I have to keep this privacy so that we can move forward in a way that's healthy, but it's not healthy. It's very dysfunctional. The other thing is a defense mechanism, right? A family is going to hold lies to defend themselves. Communication problems. Communication problems. We can't communicate in this family system. So everybody tells lies. Everybody hides things, keeps secrets. Everybody's deceptive, you know? The other thing is trauma, right? That's quite explanatory. Sometimes families lie to protect from trauma, or sometimes they lie about a trauma. There's also shame and guilt, right? There's protection of shame and guilt within the family, you know? There's also something known as betrayal secrets. And that's something that happens in a family when, let's say, for example, mom is having an affair, dad knows nothing about it. What's a betrayal secret? Dad goes to the son and says, I've done something very bad and I don't want your mom to be hurt. If she ever finds out about this, we're going to get a divorce and you're going to end up without two parents in the same house. You may even be taken by child protective services. To protect our family, please don't tell your mother what you overheard. Boom, there's a betrayal secret. And how does that impact the son in that dynamic, right? He's got to hold a secret for his dad. And I want to know if you guys have experienced this yourself. He's got to hold a secret for his dad. And that's a lot of responsibility, depending on how old you are. And then he has to kind of, guard against his mother's questions. Maybe the mother has some suspicions, right? So he's got to hold that lie for dad, and he's got to kind of protect his mom as well. So that's a betrayal secret. Also, too, families, they use embellishments sometimes. Have you ever been in a situation where, maybe you run into somebody on the street and your mom, for example, is so narcissistic, everybody in the family has to look important. So what does she do? She tells the neighbor that you're going to law school. That's not happening. Maybe you dropped out, but she's going to make it look like you're in law school. Maybe, you've been common law with your partner for about 25 years. What's your mom going to do? Say you guys have been married for 25 years. Embellishments, right? That's also a form of deception. And as a matter of fact, that is what we would consider a secret, using embellishments and holding a secret. So that is deception. And of course, omission of facts. That's another function of lies within a family, right? I'm going to omit that my son was in jail for 20 years. I'm just going to say that right now he is an architect, he's doing well, he's married, he has 5 kids, but I'm going to omit that he's been in jail for 25 years. That's an example of that. And sometimes, and this has happened in my office over the past few years of my career, sometimes that secret becomes known because a child in the family is smart. They will get on Google and start looking things up. That happened to one of my families that I see. They will start asking questions and piecing bits and pieces of information together. And then boom, there's that lie. It's now uncovered. And it can cause years and years of distress. Okay, let me take a break, guys. When we come back to this content piece, I want to give you some typical patterns of lying within your family. I want to give you 5 effects on you because you're going to be affected by this. And then I also want to give you 5 signs that you were being lied to within your family. So we'll get back to that. So let's go to the chat box, guys. Let's see. It's been cold lately says, I think I lie because I hate exposing my past or the truth about me. I have no choice but to make up my life and experiences because I don't want to re traumatize myself talking about it all day. I totally understand that. Here's what's important. It's been cold lately about what you're doing. So it sounds to me as if you are engaging in possibly embellishing information. Maybe you say you've gone to college and you got a degree in law and you went back to graduate school and got another degree. Like maybe you're embellishing. Maybe if you're not embellishing, you're omitting things, right? I'm just not going to tell people that I grew up in a traumatizing household. I'm just going to act like my childhood was wonderful, For me, and this may sound really twisted, and I don't want it to sound that way. So bear with me here. I think some people can be justified in their lying. Oh, that's hard to say. So let me clarify. Some people can be justified in their lying. I'll give you an example. I once had the sweetest 9-year-old I've ever had. She was adopted several times, adopted. She was, well, maybe I should say fostered, then she was adopted twice by 2 different families. She came to me after, I'm gonna say, 5 years of being in really unstable situations. She finally got with an adopted family who was healthy for her. She went to school, got good grades. She was just wonderful and cute as a button. So she went to school, and the number one thing that she would tell her teachers, and the teachers started calling me because they knew I was working on her case. She would go to school and tell the teachers things like, my dad is a politician. He runs the state of Atlanta and Chicago. Then she would go and say, and my mom is a doctor. She performed 5 surgeries that were successful. None of that was happening. But in a way, I felt like her lying was justified because she had been so traumatized, so unloved, so just moved around in her life so many times that when her teachers came to me about the lying behavior, I just explained, I think this is a function of her trauma. And in a sense, that justifies her lies. As long as her lies do not impact other people, she's trying to be somebody she wants to be. So it's cold lately. Maybe that's kind of where you're at this place of, I'm going to shield my heart from the reality of pain. And I'm going to say, this is happening, that's happening because it makes me look good and it protects that broken piece of who I am. That might be helpful to you. I hope it is. I feel like some people, their lies can tell a lot about their pain. Um, Annie Welker says, I only started finding out all the lies. We're at 6:30, guys. We're gonna get on it. I only started finding out all the lies and secrets in my 50s. Yeah. And what I've seen not only in my family but other people's families is that sometimes the lies aren't known until you get to a certain age, or a family member passes away, or something tragic happens in a family. Okay, let's keep going. Katsushi says, my mother was emotionally abusive towards my now deceased father. Yes. Let me highlight for those of you who are watching that sometimes emotional abuse is a part of being a liar. So, emotional abuse is not only calling you names, playing mind games, being psychologically violent towards you, meaning doing the things that that person knows that you hate, but it is also lies. Lies can be emotionally abusive because, again, a lie is an act of omission. And you're hiding something, you're concealing something by not even mentioning it at all. And that can be very destabilizing. And again, a secret is the act of deception. I don't know about you. I don't like to be deceived. I really don't. I don't like it at all. Tells me a lot about the person. And it makes me feel very angry that you would even think you can get over on me. So that can happen in a family for sure. And it is considered emotional abuse. Black girls getting their shift together. Hello and welcome. Glad to see you again tonight. She prays, says, my friend since kindergarten is meeting with my mom right now in Seattle, who I have minimal contact with from California. It's been a rough 6 months, but I can't do lies and denial within the family anymore. Yeah. Denial would be considered, I think it would be considered either a lie or a secret. A lie is the act of omission. When you're in denial, you act like something doesn't exist. And of course, a secret is deception. And sometimes denial leads you to be deceptive. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going through making sure that, here we go, Jessica J, making sure that I don't miss some of you. Jessica J says, there are also lies kept within a family. My brother told me at 13 our dad was having an affair and was told to keep the secret from my mom. I suffered emotionally and physically. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Jessica J. I'm sorry you had to experience that. That's the example that I gave earlier. So that was great. Thank you for mentioning that. Havana, I hope I said that correctly this time. Welcome to the chat. Glad to have you. Jesus loves us. Welcome. Glad to see you again in tonight's live chat. Ellie Wynn says, even my birth order was a lie. My mother cannot be honest. Sorry, guys, we're frozen again. Okay, just waiting for it to pop back on. Ellie Wynn says, even my birth order was a lie. My mother could not be honest about how many children she had. Oh my goodness. Yeah. 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 Ooh, that's rough. Okay, Nicole E, hello and welcome. Glad to have you in tonight's live chat. Says I stumbled on the channel and watched a few vids. First live here. Welcome. I hope you stick around. Glad to have you. Jim and Vijin says, Tamara, I hope you are feeling much better. You look and sound well. Yes, thank you. Feeling a lot better. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you providing insight into this topic. I don't have a lot of insights into this topic. Yes, you're welcome. Absolutely. We'll talk about this more, I promise. Okay, let me jump back into let me read Mama Lena. She says, what about parents forcing their children to lie? That's so awful. Absolutely. Parents who force their children to have the awareness to lie, the comfortability in lying, they or the parent is modeling some kind of lying behavior in front of the child. To me, that's a horrific offense because number one, a parent is the most important individual in a child's life. And that parent child relationship is the number one relationship that child is going to use as an example of how other relationships operate. So if a parent is teaching a child to lie, what do you think is going to happen to that child? I have a child that has been seeing me for almost 10 years, observed parents lying, and what do you think he does all the time? Lie, lie, and lie, and even when it's not beneficial. So, thank you for that, Mama Lena. That's extraordinarily important of a point. Thank you. Okay, let's jump back in. So, what are typical patterns of lying within a family? Pathological, that's a typical pattern according to research. Intergenerational trauma can often house lies within generations. Fear of consequences, right? I'm just going to lie and cover because I don't want to have to deal with consequences. That's a common pattern. Minimizing psychological distress. That's another common pattern. Maybe there's been suicidal thoughts within the family. Maybe there's been bipolar disorder. Maybe there's been something like schizophrenia or some kind of psychosis. A family is going to most likely cover that up if it's embarrassing, if they feel that it's going to go against the image that they have put out into the world and to other people in the family. So, minimization of psychological distress, that's a common pattern. There's also this protective lying that happens. And it's kind of like, I'm going to protect what's mine and I'm going to lie just to protect what's mine. You know what I mean? And sometimes the protective lie could be, I'm going to tell everybody that I'm happily married, even though I'm being beat up every night. I'm being assaulted every night, but I'm going to tell everybody in my family that I am just fine. I'm happy, I'm in love, and I love the person I chose to marry. The reality of protective lies is that they come out down the road, right? And the more you try to cover and protect a lie, family members and people who really know you will catch on. That's kind of what happens within a family. So that's a common and typical pattern. There's also denial of certain situations happening within a family. That's another pattern. And then delusions are false beliefs that are held to be true despite a lot of evidence to the contrary. The best way to think of a delusion is this way. If somebody told you that you are not the age that you are, would you believe them or would you believe yourself? You probably would believe yourself. A delusion is that fixed. And sometimes a delusion can be the result of a series of lies. It could also be within delusions can, I'll put it this way, delusions can impact a person and cause them to lie because they're delusional. Does that make sense? So those are common patterns. Now, how do these common patterns affect you? Well, here's what I have seen, here's what I've had in terms of experience, and here's what research says. If you are the recipient of a lie, or a secret or some kind of deception, you are going to somehow continue to experience that in adult relationships, especially if this was a part of your childhood. It's not like you're choosing people who's going to lie to you, but here's what's happened. Oh, geez. Sorry, guys, my camera again. But here's what's happening. Maybe I should fix the cords. I don't know. Here's what's happening in a situation like that. It's almost like you become so used to having a family that's full of lies that everything you do may feel false. And somehow, like we talked about yesterday, you have this unconscious part of yourself that plays out in your life. You may not see it, you may not even know how, but you know that something's playing out in your life that you're keeping in here. And so, coming from a family system of multiple lies can cause you to live out fantasies of your own, struggle with admitting the truth. That's what I'm trying to say. And also struggle with healthy relationships. And you may find yourself like, it's been cold lately. Yikes. I don't know why my camera is doing that. I'm sorry, guys. You may find yourself like, it's been cold lately, telling lies to cover things, right? So somehow your relationships become unhealthy over time. Another way that this kind of toxic family function can impact you is you begin to distrust other people and the system of family and relationships. Family is a system, a relationship is a system. Two people are in it trying to make it work. And if you've come from a family full of lies and deception and secrets, you're probably going to have a hard time trusting and being honest or believing in that relationship that you're in. The other thing is that you lose faith in other people. And when you lose faith in other people, what happens? You become unhealthy, you become depressed, anxious, and unhappy because you just can't trust anybody else. There's also an element of learned behavior here. You may find yourself engaging in the same behavior that your toxic family or dysfunctional family has engaged in. So even though you may not like the lies, you may not believe in lying, you may find yourself slip a lie every now and then because that is a learned behavior. And another thing, too, is when you come from a family of lies, in a sense, it's almost like there's this normalization of the lie. So the lies that you've been around, they kind of get normalized, and you either soak them up as truth somewhere in your brain. So you kind of convince yourself it's truth, or you normalize other people's lies. Now, this is what research says can happen to you. Now, before we go into the 5 signs that you're being lied to, let me just go back to the chat box, see what you guys are talking about, and I am going to try to wrap up here at 6:50. That is my goal because we're way over 6:30. Kat Sushi says this topic reminds me of the time I was watching Encanto. Oh, a lot of secrets and lies and estrangement. Yeah, those kind of movies or something, right? It's interesting how one lie can catch on to another lie, and it almost feels like fire catching, right? That's how slick lies can be, and they can impact you through many generations, many generations. Patricia Van Winkle, hello and welcome back. Glad to see you in tonight's live chat. Yes, yes, absolutely. I'm gonna buy one. I'm gonna buy one. It's been cold lately. Just watch me. Okay, looking for comments. Broadcasting yourself, hello and welcome. Glad to have you on tonight's live chat. Says, thank you so much, Tamara. Sunday morning here in Australia. Wow, that's amazing. I love Australia. I love Australia. I have 2 friends from Australia, and I have a client that I see there for consultations. And I don't know. I almost feel like people there are really kind, maybe more kind than in the United States. I don't know. I feel like that. Maybe I'm wrong. Adrian Paul says, oh my God, my mom apologized for not being a good mother. And immediately after apologizing, she mentioned how abusive my father was towards her. I was premature after she fell in the snow, PTSD from birth. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, my goodness. I'm sorry that happened to you. Gee whiz. Um, I don't have any additional. I was trying to search my mind to see if I had any additional comments for that comment. I do not, at least for right now. Thank you so much, Patricia Van Winkle. That's awesome. Yeah, thank you. Okay, I'm just looking for comments that we can use. Lies about grandpa, the pervert, lies, 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 protecting the abusers and punishing the victims. Yes, that is often something that happens within a family system that's very toxic and unhealthy. This is so the five signs that you were being lied to, we're going to talk about here, but I'm going to give you one because this relates to what you're saying, she prays. Lies about grandpa, protecting the abuser and punishing the victims. Those are called, it's called guarded privacy. And what that means is that you are trying to keep something private or keep something a secret, but you guard it with all that you have. And sometimes if there's sexual abuse within a family, if there is incest within a family, sexual incest, if there's some weird behaviors in the family that could be ancestral or incestuous, I should say, I'm sorry about that, or that could be weird or odd, that's when guarded privacy comes in. And so this is exactly what you're talking about. It is protecting the abusers, although some people believe that they are protecting the victim by shielding them from judgment, outside opinions, that kind of thing. But it's not true. You are protecting the abuser. I'll give you an example. When I first started in this field, I had to be about 23, and I took on my first case where there was a sister who was 2 and the brother was 10. He was violating the 2-year-old. And instead of mom calling Child Protective Services, getting her son into treatment, trying to help the 2-year-old, rebuild that bond with her brother, securing the house, making sure that there are cameras, or making sure that the 10-year-old knows never to do that again. Instead of doing that, she covered it. She covered it. And when he got to 15, he did it again, but he did it again to a neighbor's child. And so that became a big issue. He's actually serving time now because he did it again at the age of 18. So he has sexually assaulted 3 times in his life. The scary part about it is mom thought that she was protecting her 2-year-old daughter by not getting her 10-year-old help. She wasn't. She was creating a pervert. In so many words, she was creating a son with a perverted mindset. She was creating a son that would go on to harm 2 or 3 other kids that were 5 or 6 years younger than him. And now he's serving time for rape. It's a very sad story, but she did protect the abuser. And this is his life course. This is who he is. Emotional support paintbrush. Oh my goodness, I love that. Welcome to the chat. Glad to see you. Says, what about the difference between boundaries and lies, etc.? It's not a lie not to disclose my sexual history before I met my husband to my kids, is it? Well, I mean, sounds like you're asking me for some therapeutic advice here, some therapeutic input. I'm going to say, I'm just going to put it this way. I think not disclosing sexual history to somebody that is supposed to be your spouse is a lie. It's omission. It's omission. And that's a lie. Anything that you're omitting, especially if it can impact the relationship, trust, honesty, genuinity, authenticity, it's a lie. So it's omission. Um, but, there we go. It's frozen again, guys. I'm so sorry. I don't know if you can hear me when it freezes. I don't know. Maybe you can still hear me. I don't know. Let me know if you can. I won't pause then. But that's what I think. That's what I'm thinking. That's all I'm going to add to that. That was a good question, though. Okay, let's keep going, guys. We got to wrap up here. Yeah, yeah. Deed LaShawn says that was a great question as well. It was a great question. Yes. Now, let me also say too, now that I'm thinking about it just a little bit closer, that sometimes you do have to omit things, right? So that you don't hurt or cause more harm or cause trauma. An example of that would be a mother does not have to tell her daughter that she has been sexually assaulted and that's why she has PTSD. She could simply tell her 12-year-old daughter, mom is struggling with some things. Mom had a situation happen in the past. It was traumatic. I'm getting therapy. That's all I need you to know. You don't have to disclose everything. But when it involves a close relationship like a marriage, some kind of mother-daughter bond, a relationship, father-son, I think it's healthy, specifically when you're married, to be honest, especially when it entails a sexual history, because that's so personal. Okay, let me just scroll. Yes, you're welcome, Jessica J. You're welcome. I'm glad this is helpful. Blue Galaxy, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate you so much for doing that. B says, my mother's niece told me behind my mother's back that she went to a mental institution and was diagnosed with schizophrenia because she threatened to harm herself after a psychologically abusive husband. So my mother's niece told me behind my mother's back that she went to a mental institution. Yeah, that's a little bit difficult, because I don't necessarily think that was her place to do that. And that kind of shined a light on your mom that maybe she didn't feel she wanted you to know. So we kind of have to look at dysfunctional families as consisting of lies, secrets, deception, and sometimes family members who talk way too much. And they totally neglect the reality that it's not your place to tell a family secret. It's not. Now, if it's a family secret and it's going to add to a situation in a positive way, then maybe so. But that's also dysfunctional to tell secrets that just don't belong to you. I'm sorry that happened, B. Maybe it didn't impact you, but I don't know. I'm still sorry that that happened. Okay, let me give you the last four signs that you are being lied to. The first one was guarded privacy. The second one is occasional disappearance. Have you ever had a family member kind of disappear on you? It's kind of like radio silence, right? One minute you're texting with them, you're talking with them, and you're smiling and laughing, and everything is wonderful. And here comes Sunday. Where'd you go? Why didn't I hear from you? What's going on? Why didn't you say anything? Right? Radio silence. So sometimes that's a sign that there's deception, there's lies, there's a secret undercurrent thing going on that maybe you didn't catch, right? But it's this disappearance. That person just disappears. And sometimes they'll try to re-enter the scene and act like nothing ever happened. The reality is no, something did happen. You went silent, and that is not a healthy behavior in a relationship. So occasional disappearance, internal conflict. Sometimes you're being lied to within your family when intuitively you just feel something's off, right? Whenever I sit down with a new family in my office or I sit down with an individual who wants therapy, my clinical intuition, my personal intuition is doing most of the driving of my questioning, most of the driving of my interest in this client, most of the driving of who is this sitting before me. And if I have an internal conflict, something about you just makes me unstable, makes me emotional, makes me angry, something about you makes me feel something that's off, I know something is off. I had a pathological liar about 7 or 8 years ago when I worked in community mental health. That pathological liar was, I'm going to say, the devil, for lack of a clinical term. Like everything that came out of his mouth was a lie. And every time he would sit in front of me, I had some kind of internal conflict on the inside. I couldn't like him. I really tried to believe everything he said, but he not only deceived me, but the other clinical staff. He deceived his mom, his wife, his boss. He had absolutely no moral compass. And so that internal conflict can tell you all that you need to know. There's also what we call equivocation or evasiveness, right? You're being lied to when a person is just evasive. They show you halves of things, they give you half truths, right? They give you a little bit of dust over there and withhold everything else. So evasiveness, that's how you know that you're being lied to, or there's something going on that maybe you're not aware of. And the last thing here as a sign that you're being lied to within your family is false feedback. Have you ever had a family member give you false feedback? Maybe you asked a question or you wanted to know something about a family situation or a toxic family secret, and that family member says, I'm so glad you asked me that. I think it's wonderful when people have questions. I think it's wonderful when family wants to understand each other, and trust and authenticity is everything that we need to have in a family. False feedback, it feels like you're covering up something. Don't suck up to me kind of thing. So those are, according to psychology, I'm going to make sure I put the research in the description box too when this goes off. This is what psychology says are 5 reasons, and these are also my experiences in my field. 5 reasons or 5 ways that you are being deceived. Okay, Let me go to the chat box. We're gonna wrap up. We're gonna wrap up. I never can get through this in 30 minutes. It's just it doesn't exist. We're always about an hour, aren't we, guys? Kat Sushi says, my family doesn't understand the difference between discretion and lying. That is such a good point. I'm gonna expound on that. So I don't tell them anything important or vulnerable, especially in regards to my physical health problems. Yeah, and they don't need to know. They don't need to know. They don't need to know. Everybody in your family doesn't need to know you have cancer. Everybody in your family doesn't need to know that your husband had an affair, right? Because you can work through that if you trust him and if he's humble, if he's honest, if he regrets it, right? If you tell your mom your husband had an affair, that may turn your mom against him. And you guys may make it work and your mom is still angry. So you don't have to tell everything, you know? My family doesn't understand the difference between discretion and lying. I like that cat sushi because some people don't. Some people think that I am being discretionary. I am being private. I'm guarding my privacy. Remember that term? I'm guarding my privacy by not saying this. No, you're not. You're lying. Right? So, yeah. And some family members talk way too much. They don't know there's a boundary. Okay. Miss Kim, 67, 671. Hello, welcome. Glad to see you. Yeah, absolutely. Sun and Flowers, hello and welcome. There's always the playback, so don't worry. Glad to see you. R.A. Andrews says that I can definitely relate to the idea of lying to avoid pain, mainly to myself. Yeah, to be honest, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. All right, I'm just going through Empowered Woman. Hello and welcome. I haven't seen you in so long. Says, hi, Tamara. I found out our family lies when I did an ancestry DNA. Yes. Yes, I did too so many years ago. My mother had many secrets that she took to her grave. My sisters cannot admit the truth. How can we heal? Well, that's a tough one. That's going to be a whole hour. So I can't really break that down. The way to heal, I think, though, is you remaining connected to the truth and then giving your sisters whatever evidence that you have. So I also, back when I was in college years ago, I was like 18, 19, 20. I did a DNA search. I also did an ancestry search. I found some documents in my grandmother's basement. And that's how I found out, oh my God, we have Native American Apache heritage. We have this uncle over here that was never really talked about. You know, that baby was born because my grandfather had an affair. So I found out all of that at the age of 18, 19, 20, just by researching DNA. And the most important thing I think that I did was with my siblings. I shared the concrete proof. You know, I said, here's the document, here's the birth certificate, here's the birth certificate with the race on it, the ethnicity, you know, and my siblings cannot deny. My one sibling cannot deny it. So showing proof that this is what I know about the family. Here it is right here in writing. That would be my brief suggestion. I know I hate that she prays. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's my camera overheating. I don't know. Thank you, Nicole E. I hope you guys didn't miss some pieces of this live chat because my camera froze. Jajet says, thank you for giving us your time and knowledge. You're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys in the chat box. Santa, hello, welcome to the chat. Glad to see you again. Says, my mother would lie about the most innocuous and mundane things. It was always to protect her facade and continue her charade of being a perfect mother and wife. She was evil. Yeah, absolutely. That's really difficult. Really, really difficult. That would not be guarded privacy. That would be, I think, minimization of psychological distress. That's one. And I also think that it would be denial. It sounds like denial. The iconic intuitive, hello and welcome, says thank you so much for your valuable contributions. I'm going through something horrendous and it's still Covert and coercive. Yes, absolutely. I'm glad this was helpful. Sorry you're going through that. That's rough. That's rough. And it's rough when somebody's not giving you the truth, right? Excuse me. One issue that I've noticed with my clients, and this is just how I feel too as a human being, that when someone lies to you, you just want to say to them, do you think I'm stupid? Like, why do you think I'm not going to find you out? And why do you think that I'm not going to be able to see through you? What gives you that confidence that I'm not going to be able to see through you? You know? It's almost like that liar is thinking, it's almost like that liar is saying, you're too stupid to see the truth sometimes, you know? That used to make me so angry. Oops, I'm sorry, B. B says, why do you think that the rest of the family keeps the secrets? Money? Question mark. I just don't understand how so many people could conspire against you and say nothing. Well, here's the thing. Again, and this is what we focused on at the very beginning. It might be a taboo lie. Right? It could be something that's a no situation. So other family members keep the lie. Other family members may be under the impression that the lie is actually the truth. Right? There's also rule violations. If I share this lie, this person over here is going to feel like I violated them. Or I'm not going to tell dad's secret. That's dad. And we never go against dad in the family, right? So there's a lot of toxic, dysfunctional reasons why, sadly. That was a great, great question, B. Thank you for that. I'm sorry, she prays. Yanadu, I hope I said that correctly. Welcome, glad to see you. Says hi, Tamara in chat. It's very difficult to grow up with a parent who doesn't take responsibility for anything that happens. That is very, very true. Very true. Because we look to our parents to be the very ones that are honest, authentic, and mature. And that's not always the case. Sammy, I don't know if I welcomed you to the chat. I'm sorry if I didn't. Forgive me. Welcome. Glad to see you again. Live says, my mother always made me lie to acquaintances and school about what happened at home, abuse and neglect to protect her image of a perfect family. Wow, that is rough. So let me kind of dissect that a little bit because that has happened in my clinic, my office, my private practice, I should say. So most parents will tell their kids, don't say anything to a teacher when you go to school tomorrow. Don't tell your teacher dad assaulted me last night. Don't tell your teacher the dad spanked you. I've had clients in my office do the same thing. And some kids are very smart, which is why I love my specialty in working with kids and adolescents, because they can be smarter than the parents sometimes. A child said to me a couple years ago, Mom told me not to tell you this, so I'm not going to tell you. That was a key for me to ask some questions. If I ask the questions, the child is really not divulging that information to me by their own will, are they? Right? So I thought that was pretty wise. So the kid says to me, my mom told me not to tell you something. What was my first instinct to say, what was that? I already knew it had to be something that could get the parent in trouble. But the child ended up saying, I don't want to tell it to you because I don't want to get my mom in trouble. And so that's when I knew I'm going to have to call Child Protective Services because something's not right here. The child didn't divulge the information, but they let me know, Mom is telling me to keep secrets from you, and it's something really bad. So yes, free live. Parents will do that, and sometimes they will do that to protect themselves selfishly. And those are typically parents who are not very knowledgeable, uneducated about the system. They're afraid that if Child Protective Services gets involved, that child's going to be automatically removed. That's not always the case. Sometimes parents are afraid they're going to lose status in their jobs, right? And they will tell the child to lie. That's sad, right? So I'm sorry you had to go through that free live. That's not a way that you're going to get support at all. At all. Okay. I'm just scrolling to make sure that I didn't miss any of you. I don't. Elizabeth, that's so sweet of you. I don't. I wish I did. I actually have something to do with my mom tonight. So I need to be off of here. V, hello, welcome. Glad to see you in tonight's live chat. Thank you for all those special emojis. Nancy, hello. Nancy R, welcome to the chat. Yes, lies are unhealthy. They are dysfunctional and they are detrimental. I will add those things. R, hello and welcome says, how to proceed when you realize you have come into a family that operates with lies and secrets, deception and manipulation. How to proceed when you realize you have come into a family that operates with lies. Stay honest. Stay honest. Be honest yourself and maybe take some steps to reveal some of the lies that the family is keeping. Maybe if it's a lie that's not so bad, like, dad had an affair, but we never talked about it. You know, you can talk about it amongst your siblings and maybe try to get your siblings to see where you're coming from. But I just think there's really no researched or scientific way to go about this topic. There really isn't. I just think the best way to survive in a family of lies is to remain authentic and honest. And sometimes you might have to be the individual who says, you know what, I'm going to be honest and I'm going to divulge this, this, and this, and this. Whoever doesn't like it, oh well. Robert Pukey Ray. Hello and welcome. Glad to have you. We're going to sign off here in 2 seconds, but I will read your comment. Says, my mom has some splitting and tells some exaggerations. So when I see them, family treat me like some degenerate. Oh, yeah. It's hard when a mom is a liar, right? Because our automatic assumption is that a mom is telling the truth. It's that truth bias I mentioned earlier. We automatically believe that there is truth being told to us. Never a lie. Never a lie. All right, guys, I'm going to sign my off of here. I see somebody else that I could answer. The alleyway. Hello and welcome. Glad to have you in tonight's live chat. Says, my brother has mental health issues. He refuses to get help. He has become violent with our dad. I don't want to be around him. Am I wrong? Well, no. I don't think you're wrong at all. No. I wouldn't want to be around it either. It sounds like a dysfunctional, toxic kind of family interaction there. I'm sorry you were going through that, by the way. Thank you, Black Girls, getting their shift together. I appreciate that. Thank you. I got to figure out what's going on with my camera, though. All right, guys. Love you so much. Thank you for tuning in another live chat. I will hopefully see you next week with 2 live chats. We're going to have one on Friday and then one on Saturday. Let me know if this live chat was helpful to you. We'll go ahead and talk about this again. A lot of you requested a part 2 on yesterday's topic, so let me know if you want a part 2 on this topic. I will put it in my notes. Have a wonderful and safe weekend. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.